Hello and welcome back to The Broken Doll, and tonight I come to you with how do I mix up my paint and what paints do I use. I've been requested this by somebody on my channel, and I'm going to go over it again. So anyways, these are the things that you're going to need. You're going to need a screwdriver. This is what I'm going to need, and then I'm going to explain why. A screwdriver, you're going to need a brush, burnt umber oil paint. On my wooden dolls, I only use oil paint, okay? I just want to stress that because I was asked about that. So I use burnt umber. You don't have to use Artist Loft. You can use others as well. This is a beginner's paint. So this is what I use on my composition dolls, burnt umber. I also use brilliant red, okay? Oil paint. I use orange oil paint. I use Tremclad rust paint, white, gloss white. Okay, I think it says, yeah, gloss white. Okay, I bought this some time ago. All right, let's talk about this. Why am I using, we're going to start with the white paint. Why am I using Tremclad? What's the deal about that? Why am I not just using some type of and this is an oil paint, okay? I just want you to know this. This is oil, all oil paint, okay? Why am I using oil paint? Well, and you're going to need a jar. I'm not sure if I'm going to use this little jar just yet. I think I'm going to go to this jar here. My big, I use these from spaghetti jars. That's all you need is just a spaghetti jar. I was at my thrift store one day and I saw a bunch of jars there as well, and they were 10 cents a jar. And you pick them up if that's the way you have to do it. If you don't, use jars like this, we do. Our sauce comes in these mason jars. They're made, it says Atlas on them. That's mine. Okay, now let's talk about the Tremclad. Why am I using the Tremclad Glossy? I'm hot. I got to get my air on in here. This is not working for me, so I'm going to put it on. There we go. All right. Is it going? Oh yeah, it's on. I see the green light. Okay, why do I use the Tremclad rust paint? This here is just oil paint. That's all it is. In my country of Canada, in my province of Ontario, I can't speak for other provinces, but my province here, they're environmentally safe. So kind of oil paint went to the side and they brought in latex and all other paints, but they still know that people have steel furniture outside and they need to paint it. You can't use latex, you can't use acrylic because it's all water-based cleanup. This here you have to use mineral spirits, or you have to use turpentine, or now I'll show you what I use I didn't bring it, I should have. It's right behind me so I don't have to go far to get it. Where did I put it now? Oh, there it is. My Mona Lisa odorless paint thinner. This is what I use right here. I get it from Michael's. And this is what I use, the odorless paint thinner. I've been using it for years. And it's the best. And you got to thin your paint out. That's what you're going to use. I got a little bit left in there. Okay, so we're going to have to thin our paint down because this is really thick stuff. All right. So anyways. So in my province here, because they took away the oil paint on a massive scale, now I'm stuck using what they call rust paint, but it's just oil paint. That's the bottom line to it. It's nothing special. It's oil paint. It says right on here, oil technology. It's oil paint. That's all this is. Oil-based technology. That's what it's just oil paint. I can't say it any more than that. So, but in your state, if you're from the United States or another country, you may not, your state or your province or your country may still have regular old oil paint there, so you can use it, or this is what I've got to go with, okay? So I use the Tremclad. Now I could be using a white oil paint on here, but there's something about the artist paint that I don't like as the pure form, if I'm going to say that. So let's say I bought a white artist oil paint. I don't like the white artist paint. I like this. This is what I like. I like this paint here. There's something about this oil paint here that's a little bit different, I think, than the artist paint. That's my take on it. I don't know what it is, but I like this better. It works for me. Why do I use oil paint on my composition dolls? Because, okay, you can say, well, that's all they had back in the 1920s. True. There was acrylic or water-based paints being made back then. They just weren't on an open scale being used. They weren't being used on dolls. They knew wood and oil paint loved each other. I always talk about there's a marriage, a friendship. They get along together and they absorb to one another. They hold on to each other. So when oil paint dries out over the years, it gets a webby look to it. And we call that crazing. So when you get an old doll and you see all these lines through its face, what is that? You're going, oh my goodness, what's those lines all about? That's the oil that has dried up, and you're left with the pigment of the paint left behind, and it cracks. Where the oil was is just left cracks. Most times it won't lift. It'll just stay on the doll. You can sand that off. You'll find flaking on the doll, and you can sand that off and repaint it with oil paint again. That's okay. You can even put acrylic over it. I don't do that. I return the doll back to what it was originally painted with, and that is oil. Because why? I know wood and oil love each other. So that's why I paint with the oil. Though, yes, today we have a lot of modern paints that can go on wood. You can strip a doll right down to the bare wood and put acrylic on it. Here's the problem with acrylic. Over time, years from now, maybe when you won't even see it, maybe 30, 40, 50 years from now, acrylic paint lifts. It doesn't have a friendship with wood. It'll lay on top of the wood, and it will sit there for years, but it loses its luster. It loses something about it as it ages. So what happens to acrylic paint when it gets old? It lifts. It starts to dry out and lift. Where oil paint, the oil will dry out, but it just has lines in it. You can take, and if you were to have a doll, an old doll, some people do this, and it works really nice. They will rub a base paint of flesh tone onto the doll, and then put the blushing back on again. So you can do that with oil paint, because it doesn't lift, and you can get rid of those lines. And they'll do a light sanding over the doll first, and then rub in sometimes just the pigment, and they'll do it with a cloth sometimes, just like how you would to put on wood. You're staining wood, you put it with a cloth, and then you wipe it off. That's what they do. They kind of just rub it in type of thing. I've never done that. I've always taken oil paint. I like going down. Now, this is me when I say this. I like a bare canvas. That's how I do things. I like to start look at the doll. I have found holes where the doll has been dropped over many years ago. The child might have dropped it, or maybe something dropped onto the doll. I have found many holes in dolls that have been covered up with paint, and you don't see it. And all of a sudden, you take it off and you find the weakness in the doll. So I fix those weaknesses up, fix the doll right up to tip top, and then I paint it again. Give it the paint and make it doll-like. So that's what I do, paint it like you would find the doll from years ago. So that's my explanation. That's what I do. You do not have to do what I do. You don't have to. I'm just saying you can figure out your own way if you find a better way for yourself. But this is my way, and you can branch it off and take what I have and make it form something different for yourself if you find a better way by taking the base of what I give you and then form it into something that you find even better for you, works better for yourself. Then do so. I'm not always right. I gladly admit that. I am not an art teacher. I have no art background. I've always said that. I'm just a lady who came along who wanted to rescue these dolls and learn what works on a doll and why they did what they did. Sometimes copying the old way is always the best. Sometimes we can veer off and use something new today, like Milliput. Milliput loves wood, but the only thing is it's plastic. So you're putting a plastic with the wood. Sometimes it doesn't always want to absorb the paint, especially oil paint. It'll absorb with acrylic paint better than it will with oil paint, but you can paint it with oil paint. I've done it, and many, 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 many times. I find I'm using less and less of my Milliput, and I'm using more and more of other products along the way to fix my dolls that work even better, which I wouldn't have done years ago. but I have learned things along the way, and I pass them on, and then I allow you to do what you think is best for your doll and how to work with it. I show you how I work with it, and then I allow you to go work with it in your own way. I mean, not that I allow you to, you just can. I don't have, you don't ask permission. Can I do that? No, you just do it how you feel. And if you find a better way, please share it, because what I'm about is breaking down the walls of the doll hospital, and we're peeking inside and saying, hey, how did you do that? And that's what we're doing here. So there's my explanation about the Trimclad. Now, why do I have this? A screwdriver, because I got to open up the lid. Okay, that's what that's for. An old brush. I never get rid of these old brushes. They get crunchy, but they're great for mixing up my paint with. And then I use my better brushes. Okay. Now, one time I used to use all my better brushes because that's all I had was better brushes. Now, what kind of brushes do I use? I go to Michael's and I get them on for I get a coupon and I get one at full price, one for 40% off or 30% off, whatever the deal is. These are just beginner brushes, nothing special. They're acrylic brushes. I love the acrylic brushes. I don't use oil paint brushes just because I'm using oil paint. I love the acrylic brush and how it goes on, and that's my take on it. You don't have to. You can use whatever you want. You can buy the most expensive brushes, which you don't have to, but you can, down to the even cheaper ones than maybe at the dollar store. Maybe that works better for you. I like these ones here. I've always loved them. I've always gravitated towards them, and I use them, and they're my thing. So, I like sometimes to work with what makes me feel comfortable. And if this makes me feel comfortable while I'm painting a doll, so be it. But anyways, my next color that I also have in my, to make up my, we're talking about making flesh tone now for the doll. That's going to be the base of the doll. Now, I use burnt umber in with my Trimclad. This is oil paint. You can see it says #1 on there. It's a beginner's paint. #1, beginner's paint. You don't need to be all extravagant and buy, a wicked high amount, paint. I don't. You can if you want. It's your dollar. Okay, the next one is Brilliant Red. I love this Brilliant Red color. I did try some other reds. Nothing comes close to what this does. That's me again. I like the Brilliant Red. And I like a little bit of orange in there too, just as well. If you look at your doll, you can see a little hint of orange in their color. To bring out those warm flesh tone colors, a little bit of orange really helps out. Okay, so there we are. That's what I use. And I use this to thin the Mona Lisa odorless paint thinner. And I'm in a little shop here, my shop in the back of my yard. I have a cat that lives in here, so my son comes out here too, and he does probably be smelling turpentine and all that stuff. So I keep this odorless paint thinner out here. It runs a little bit, but it's well worth it, and I don't need to gas myself out either. So there it is. That's what I use. This is what you're going to need to start yourself off, and it doesn't have to cost the family farm. That's what I'm trying to tell you. These are the products that you're going to need and equipment that you're going to need to mix up your paint, your flesh tone color. So next video is going to be about, let's start mixing up our flesh tone. All right, so I'm going to let this video go here, and I'm going to come right back now of mixing up our flesh tone. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope I was clear with this. I'm going to keep this video, and when anybody asks me again about the what I use, I'll be able to bring this video up and just say, here it is, this is what I do and why I do what I do. All right, thanks again for joining me. Oh, and just to let you know, this does come in a bigger size. We had a store that went out of business, and this was on sale, so that's why I got this in that small can. I will be going to get the pint-sized can, I guess you call that, so I'll be getting that one next when these are gone. All right, thank you for joining me, and we'll be coming back really soon. If you like what you heard here tonight, give me a thumbs up, and a comment would be nice too. Thanks again, and don't go anywhere. I'm coming right back with another video. Bye-bye.